In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to successfully complete on your own assignment 19-2 for week 7. So here we are on the assignments page as usual, and we're going to click the Here button to get the correct version of the instructions. And I'm going to put that on another screen here so that I can see it. Step 1, open the data file contacts19. Now you'll notice that there are two other files here. You will not need those. You will only need contacts19 access database. So go ahead and click on that and then click down here to open it. May look a bit different. I'm using Google Chrome as my browser. And then I have to say enable content. You may or may not have to do that. And then it wants us to save the database. So I will file and save as. Okay, save database as. I'll click save as. And then I have got a folder here for these assignments, so we will use the same naming convention that we've been using, the last name underscore first initial underscore on your own 19-2, and we don't have to worry about putting the file extension because Access will add that automatically. Okay, and then I have to click enable content one more time. Alright, now step 2. Use the form wizard to create a form based on the property table. So we'll go over to the create ribbon, okay, and the form wizard button is right here, so we'll click that. Okay, and it says we don't create a form based on the property table, so use the drop down here and choose property, and then it says select all the fields on the form. The easy way to do that is just click the little double arrow. It will move all of them at one time, and then click next. And it wants us to use the columnar layout, which is the default, so we don't have to make any selections here. But if yours happen to have one of these other options chosen, you'll have to change it to columnar, okay? And then click next, and it wants us to use the title property info. So it already says property. I'll just add the word info on the end of it there, no spaces, and click finish. And so there we go. That creates our form for us. And step 3 wants us to apply the retrospect theme. Okay, in order to do that, we'll need to be in design view. So on the view box, I'm going to use the drop down and change to design. And then notice that it gives me the form design tools ribbons. There's 3 of them, and you're automatically on the design ribbon, which is where the themes option is. So you'll choose themes here, and this one here is called retrospect. Now, you may not have this exact theme depending on the version of Access that you're using if you have an earlier version. And if that is the case, just choose something that is close to this, and that'll be fine. I'm not going to deduct any points if you don't have the exact right theme on there because it's not available to you. Okay, step 4 says edit the form title so it appears on one line as property information. So we're going to go up here to the title. Okay, I'm going to put a space between the word property and info and add information. But notice it puts it on 2 different lines, and the instructions want us to put it on one line. So what you've got to do is click on it where you've got the sizing handles around it, and click the right sizing handle and just click and drag that out, and that'll give it room to display all of it on one line. And then it wants us to change the font color of the title to orange accent to theme color. So the easy way to do that is highlight the text, okay, and then go over to home, and right here is the text formatting, the color. And the one it wants is this one right here. See, if I mouse over, see the tooltip that comes up, orange accent to? So I click that and it changes it, okay? Okay, step 5 says find the record with room ID such and such, but the thing is, in order to do that, we're going to have to be in form view. So switch to form view first, okay? Now we're actually looking at the data. Okay, so it's asking us to find the record with room ID 3423. Now you can flip through them. There's only 20, so you can use the arrows. But you can also use the search down here, okay? So I'm just going to type in 3423, and it finds it very quickly for me, okay? And then it says change the room name to your first and last name. Okay? So notice there is no saving when I'm dealing with data. Access automatically saves any data changes. It would not any design changes. So if you're making design changes, you have to actually save it. But any data is automatically saved. Okay? That's kind of an odd thing about Access that you've got to get used to. None of the other applications do anything quite like that. Alright, so step 6 says change the line style for all the field value boxes on the property info form to transparent. Now, This is a design change, so we're going to have to move back to design view. The instructions don't actually say that, but if you're changing the design, chances are you need to be in design view. If you're changing data, you've got to be in form view. That's almost always going to be the case. Okay, so here, these are the value boxes that it's referring to. And what I can do is hold down Control on my keyboard and select all of them at one time. Otherwise, you'd have to do them one at a time. All right, so you can go over to Format here, and then it's the Shape Outline is the option that you want. You can just come down to Transparent. Okay, and it's hard to see any change in here, but if you flip back over to Form View, you can see that there are no boxes around the data anymore. That's what it's asking you to do. Okay, so step 7 says change the text alignment for all the field value boxes to left. Okay, so again, back to design view here, and I'm going to select all of the fields here. Hold down my control key on the keyboard. That allows me to do a multiple select here. And then the left align. So I can go back over to format and hit the left align button. They're actually, it looks like they're already left aligned, but if you would want to change them. In fact, like if you wanted to change the labels here, you could do the same thing. You go to the labels and maybe right align them. Okay, sometimes I've seen it. That's not asking you to do that in the instructions, but that's a common thing to do when you're designing forms. Okay, so that's it. It wants us to save and close the property info form. So we can just, let's see, let's go back over to form view. Just look at it, flip through a few, make sure it looks okay. Looks good to me, so we will just hit X, and it says, do you want to save? We'll say yes, and there we go. All right. Step 9, it says use the form wizard to create a form. So we're going to repeat the same process, create a new form. Go to form wizard under the create ribbon. Okay, we're going to create a subform here, which means that we're going to be dealing with more than one table. So it wants to show data on contacts and reservations. So for contacts, it wants us to select contact ID, first name, last name, city, state, and phone number. And then from the reservations table, which means you'll have to use the drop down box to switch to reservations, okay, we're going to want the reservation ID, the start date, end date, guests, and deposits. Okay, and then click next. Okay, now it recognizes that those two tables are related, so it's automatically going to create a subform for you. And that's what we want, so you can just leave the form with subforms option, the radio button here selected. Okay, and then next, and it says use the data sheet layout, which is in my case the default. It may not be in yours, so if yours says tabular, you'll want to select data sheet and then click next. And so for the form name, it wants us to name it contacts and reservations, no spaces in that. And for the subform, reservations subform with no spaces. Now it already says that, but it's got a space in it, so I'm just going to take that out and then finish. Okay, so notice what happens now. We've got some data up here, which is the contact from the contact table, right? And then we've got a subform here, which is going to show all related reservations. So in other words, reservation 511 is for contact 201. And some of these may have more than one, which is like this one. So contact ID 203 has more than one reservation. So you can see the usefulness of a form, subform capability here, right? Because if you were just looking in the reservations table, it wouldn't be immediately obvious that 504 and 545 reservations are tied to the same contact. So with a form, though, it's obvious what's going on here. We use the same sort of technique for order header and order lines, okay? Very, very common thing. Okay, step 10 says apply the retrospect theme, just like we did for the other form. So we're going to go to Design View, go to Themes, choose Retrospect. Okay, and it wants us to change the title here to Contacts and Reservations with spaces in it. So I'm just going to put the spaces in there. And it wants us to change the color just like we did on the other. So go back to Home and choose the Orange Accent 2 color. Okay, and step 11 says navigate through the record, so that is our clue to go back to form view. Okay, resizing the columns in the form is necessary. So basically what it's asking us to do is look and make sure that all the data is displaying here, and it's not, because you can see the deposit amounts. It's actually not showing. It's too far off to the right. So let's just scroll through here and see if we can see anything else that's maybe not displaying. accurately, all the dates look right, all the fields for the contact information looks right, but the deposit is the only one that needs to be changed. So we're going to go back to design view, and so what I'm going to end up doing here is grabbing the, you can see if I put my mouse pointer on the right hand side of the form, it changes to a black bar with arrows on each side. If you click and drag, that lets you make the form larger. And then what I can do is something similar to the subform here, where if I click on it, I've got the sizing handles. I'm just going to grab this left sizing handle and extend it out a bit. Okay, now let's go back to form view. Okay, see, now we can see the deposit information. So we've made it larger in order to see everything in there. Okay. All right, step 12 is to apply conditional formatting to the deposit field. So we'll have to go back to design view, and we're going to click on the deposit field, okay? And then under the format ribbon, here is where conditional formatting is. So it's already got deposit selected because that's what we selected before we went into conditional formatting. And what it wants us to do here is to look at any field that has a deposit value less than 1,000 and format it in bold. Okay, it's exactly what conditional formatting does. Works very similar to how it does in Excel. So we're going to create a new rule here. Okay, and the rule type is to check values in the current record or use an expression, which is what we want. So field value is, and notice we've got a drop down with between, not between, equal to, and so on and so forth. So in this case, we were going to want less than. Okay, and I just type in the amount, less than $1,000, and then how do you want it set? We're just going to bold it, and that's it. So we're going to say OK, and then notice we could add multiple rules here if we wanted to, okay, but in this case it's only asking us to add a single rule, and then OK. Now you're not going to see anything happen here, okay, but if we go back over here to form view, so notice this particular deposit is in fact less than 1,000, and it is displaying in bold. So if I switch to another one, this one is greater than 1,000, so it is not displaying in bold. So you can kind of flip through these and just make sure, whoops, there's one that was 900 and it is displaying in bold, so it appears to be working properly. Okay, step 13 is to save and close this form, so we're done with it. It says, do you want to save changes to the following objects? Notice that the contacts and reservations and the reservation subform are actually two separate forms. Okay, as objects. It's actually creating two different objects. So you don't want to accidentally delete the subform thinking, I don't need that one. Okay, so you would just say yes here, and it's going to save all of them. All right, so step 14, now we're going to create a report, and it's much the same thing as far as the process goes. So we're going to go to create, and there's a report wizard, just like there's a form wizard and a query wizard. Okay, and it works very similarly. And we're going to create one with the contacts and the reservations information, much like we did the subform. Okay, so in the contact table, it wants us to add the contact ID, and I'm just double-clicking these, by the way, on the left-hand and the available fields. You can just double-click, and they're going to add, or you can click and then choose the single right arrow. Either way you want to do it. Okay, and then the first, the last, and the phone fields. I think that's all it wants. Yes. And then from the reservations table, so choose your drop down to the reservation table. Then it's going to want reservation ID, start date, end date, and that's it. Okay, so we're going to click next. And again, it recognizes the form subform because there's a one-to-many relationship between those two tables. And then, so this is correct. And then we're going to click next here. And it's going to ask us if we want grouping levels, and we don't in this particular case. But it does want us to sort, which is this particular screen here. Sort the detail records in ascending order by start date. So we're going to choose the start date attribute here, and it's already ascending. Notice I can click that and it changes it to descending, but in this case we actually want ascending, so it just toggles back and forth. So next, now it wants us to choose the outline layout, so you'll have to choose the outline radio button. And portrait orientation, which mine is already defaulted to portrait. And I use this checkbox here, adjust the field width so that all the fields fit on the page. Okay, and say next. And the title, it wants contacts reservations. Now this is the actual title of the object. Okay, so this, you don't want spaces in this one. And then finish. Okay. Now it takes us to print preview, which is it is a view, but it's a little bit different. Notice I don't have the view button up here, so I've got to click this close print preview. Okay, and that gets me to the design. So under view, see, I've got print preview, report, layout, and design view. If I go into print preview, I can no longer use view. I'd have to click the close button again. So this works a bit differently than some of the others, but the print preview is going to show you what it's going to look like when it prints. Okay, is the idea there. Okay, so it wants us to change the title here to contacts and their reservations, and also the color, just like we did on the others. So we will select the text there and then go back and choose the orange accent to color, just like the others. Then step 16 is to resize the field labels and field value boxes as necessary to display their values. So let's go to the report view here and just make sure that we can see everything. We'll scroll down through here. I don't really see any that need to be expanded because we can see all of the data. But if you needed to do that on yours, all you have to do is select it and use the sizing handles to make it larger. Okay? So mine didn't require it. Yours might. And then it says, if this is the last part of step 16, if necessary, resize and move the page number so it appears within the page boundary. So go back over to print preview, and mine will actually not. I don't need to move it because you can see it says page 1 of 4. You can actually use the arrows down here. So there's page 2 of 4, page 3 of 4. So I can see that, but yours might need to be changed. So if you want to do that, here is the control. You could just click and drag it to the left. If you need to, or you can expand the right edge of the report out to the right a little bit, whichever way, or some combination thereof to make sure it displays properly. Alright, step 17 is to format start dates that are on or after September 1st, 2016 in a bold red font. So this is conditional formatting again, just like we've done, but on the start date field. So we're going to select that, then go back over to format, and then conditional formatting. Okay, so you notice it's got start date in here. So we're going to create a new rule. Check values is what we want. And we want to say field value is greater than. Okay, because we're working with dates. We would like to think it's after, but in mathematical terms, that means greater than. So here we're just going to put 9/1/2016 in that format. Okay, and then in a bold red font. So I'm going to select bold, and we're going to change the font color here to a bright red, and then say OK, and then OK one more time. All right, and then we're going to, step 18 wants us to preview the report. So back over to home, on a print preview. And so see all the dates that are greater than September 1 are displaying in the format that we told it. Okay, and then we can close and save. So when you end up, you should have 3 forms and 1 report in here. Step 19 is just to compact and repair, so we can go over to database tools, compact and repair, and then you can save it. Actually, you shouldn't need to save it there, and then submit, and that's it.